Hi everybody. The reason for this video today is I wanted to share a couple of things that I feel God actually gave me signs to indicate regarding the wealth transfer, particularly regarding Shiba Inu and Luna Classic. Now, I had gotten a dream given to me last October-ish that indicated I was going to that the Shiba Inu investment had made that I felt I was led to by God. Um, God confirmed it to be from Him, and He did that through a series of coincidences. I prayed for a dream. My brother came over the next day, and he had said he had had a dream about buying me a lottery ticket, and when he handed me uh, when I scratched the ticket, I won 4,400,444,444. So you can watch the other video. It kind of explains it in more detail. But essentially, I started to share that story with somebody on Saturday as I was driving up to the Red Sox game. And as I got to the part of the story where it was about winning the 4,444,444, there was a sign. It was a billboard, and it said on the sign, it said call 4, and then it said 444,444,444. And I looked up, I pointed up to the billboard, and I said, see, look at that. I believe that's a sign to verify that this testimony I'm sharing is from God. So on Wednesday, I met with somebody, and I had talked about this, and that person shared with me that they had been seeing the number 1111 all over the place. And I said, well, that's interesting. And I told some stories about seeing different numbers and how I felt they had been like a form of guidance for me in my life. And she asked me to look at her crypto account because I had given her some advice years ago. And she said, what should I sell? What should I buy? And I said, why don't you sell these things here? And I told her that she should buy XRP with it. So I told her to sell these 4 different investments. And she did that in front of me. And then she said she was going to figure out whether she was going to put all of it or some of it back into XRP. So she ended up taking the sum that she had sold and putting it into XRP, and it turned out to be exactly 1,111 XRP. And so she texted me and she said, "Oh my goodness, like what a coincidence that I told you about how I've been seeing these 4 ones everywhere, and here it is. I randomly sell investments and just randomly buy XRP that you had given me advice to buy, and it's exactly 11101. I said, I don't believe it is a coincidence. I believe it's a sign. So last night, I had gotten some confirmations on Shiba Inu and XRP, but I own Luna Classic, and honestly, the only reason I own it is because I've been compelled in listening to people's stories and testimonies and dreams. So I wanted to, I bought it, I put sell limit orders in, I followed the instructions I was trusting that other people had gotten from God. And I believe there's purpose for even the administration of the wealth. But essentially, I started to doubt. I said, God hasn't given me anything about Luna Classic to confirm it to me. So I started to sell some of my Luna Classic last night, and I was thinking about selling all of it. And I was like, I decided that was a poor idea because I've gotten burnt so many times selling my investments before I let them pan out. And so this morning I came into work, and I work at a nursing home, and there was someone coming over to sign in to work. And so I said, I can help you with that. So on her phone, the person worked for an agency, and I helped her sign in to work on her phone application. So I started to fill it out, and I put my name there, and then I put my credential initials down. So my credential initials are LNHA. And so when I pressed that, the phone auto-corrected it, and it changed it to Luna. And as I looked down at the phone, I said, well, that's weird. It had my name, and then it said Luna. And then I looked over, or I didn't even look over. I was just overhearing a couple of the nurses' aides as the nursing stations were talking. Of course, they have no idea what's happening on my phone. And one of them just says, and this had to do with their conversation, and they just said, it's a sign. And, given the fact that on Saturday, I look at this billboard and I tell my friend it's a sign. And then Wednesday, I have this meeting, and that weird coincidence occurred, and I said it's a sign. And then I type my name into this with my credentials. It auto-corrects to Luna right when I was about to sell it too. And the aide says it's a sign. And for me, it's too much of a coincidence to be a coincidence. So I'm not going to be selling my Luna Classic. If there's anybody that's holding Luna Classic, I just want to encourage you that I feel, again, I've been given guidance and validation that Shiba Inu is part of the wealth transfer. It is of God. It is going to happen. I don't know when. I don't know how. And Luna Classic is part of the wealth transfer, and it is going to happen according to the people's dreams. So that's my encouragement to anyone listening, and I just, God bless all of you.